All right, welcome everyone. We're at our first meeting of the new TU season. Also our first hybrid meeting without having Kirk's help. So we'll see how that all goes. We've got a really packed agenda here. So without further ado, I always like this photo of how you spent your summer here, and you should have seen the one that got away. And so. Okay, come on there, slideshow.
We're seeing your slideshow.
Yeah, it's not moving to the next screen here. You know what? I'm going to ditch the slideshow here. That seems to be and just use. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay, Al. Everyone online see tonight's program?
I can see it.
Okay, great. Well, here again, welcome to our meeting. We follow our usual agenda. I'll try and go through the business part real quick tonight because we got a real packed program. We got 3 speakers, 2 that did work, and me. So let's without further ado. One of the first things we always like to do at our meetings is do the Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise and remove your hats. And this is a sad and picture from 21 years ago at the site of the World Trade Center. Some New York Fire Department found a flag on a collapsed flagpole and raised it. So I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, again. It's hard to believe that it was that long ago, but one of those dates you always remember where you were. Okay, I always like to start off with a few. We have a lot of pictures tonight, so we'll do a few fishing trip pictures we got. So Dave, Max, and Ralph went to Montana, and I heard it was real hot. So it was, yeah.
But it was cooler in the morning, and then about 1 or 2 in the afternoon, steamy, and that stayed 90 degrees until 8, 9.
Oh boy. But the water was cold enough to catch fish.
It was very cold. Coming out of the levee.
This is you here, right, in the blue?
Yeah.
You weren't doing that to stay warm, I guess. That was for sun?
It was.
Okay. Okay. So it looks like some beautiful fish, though.
Red-banded rainbow trout.
Red-banded rainbows. Awesome. And Dave Cardillo took this shot. Some beautiful big sky. You can see why they call it the big sky there, and the sunset there. Let's see, what's some other ones here? Kirk put this one out. He went on vacation in Canada too. He caught this big brown trout on the left in the Bow River in Alberta, which is a very famous river, real fat brown trout. And then Tyler, Paul's grandson, who's our fishing savant,
Cranberry Lake.
Cranberry Lake in the Adirondacks. And one of many pictures he puts out there. We count on him for our photo exhibits there. Really nice looking pike there. And then finally, it was real hot, real dry here. And we always preach at our TU chapter that when it gets it's about the middle of June this year, maybe even earlier, when it gets over 70 degrees in the water, give the trout a break and concentrate on warm water species, which are very abundant around here and a lot of fun to catch. A little easier to catch, some will say, than trout. So, but they're real pretty fish. This is, I think, Tyler's cousin.
No, my grandson.
Your other grandson, with a nice smallmouth.
Down the creek that's right next to my cabin.
So he's, okay, great, next to Paul's cabin. We got a couple of crappie and a small bass from, pond I fish in Cayuga County, real pretty. I love the crappie colors. And then, sunfish, I always say, thank God for sunfish, because if nothing else bites, they will. But, this one was on Hemlock Lake. Had a real beautiful day there. And that fly was about as big. I don't know, yeah, he couldn't get much more of that in his mouth than he did, but he was. And this is Bob's granddaughter at our Bass and Panfish Invitational at Boughton Park in July. Another real hot day. I think that was in the 90s. So the best bite was in the morning that day. But we all, you know, good time for all. So when it's hot, fish for these critters. And so let's see. So welcome. Is anyone new here? Raise your hand and hi, who are you? Hi, who are you? Oh, hi, William. Good to meet you. Yeah, I've seen you on Facebook. Thanks for coming. And you're
John Sept.
hi, John. How are you? Thanks for coming. If anyone on Zoom is new, I'll just type your name in the chat and introduce yourself. And so I'll zip through this. We were up to 238 chapter members now. Our Facebook group, we decided to pause it. It's actually still out there, but it's kind of in a read-only mode. We were getting a lot of spam, and it was just a pain in the butt to admin the thing, and I kind of got tired of doing it. So, but if anyone is interested in helping us restart a new Facebook page, let me know. And we can talk about that. So as long as I don't do it, I have nothing against Facebook. I use it personally, but being an admin on the group was just turning into work and a pain. Well, if we do rejuvenate it, we'll probably do it as a what's called a page, Facebook page, or a private group. The problem we had with the old one is it was a public group, and literally anybody around the world was joining and then trying to sell us stuff and stuff. So we record these meetings, so afterwards we'll put this up on YouTube, and let's see, and we have some other good things out on the YouTube channel we started. The most popular meeting we did was in May of 2021. Al was actually led that one. It was a profile of the Cohocton River. And so far that meeting has been actually reviewed over 500 times. So, and also our other big one is our intro to fly fishing school, which is well over 100 views. So people are seeing these things, and it was actually a pretty easy thing to set up and free, which will make Will happy. So our website, if you want to get a hold of us, we have a contact us link, which is working very well. And if you can find it in your heart to help us pay for this fancy stuff, we have a donate link too. And that's so that's like my passing the plate in church here. So, but consider using that, because we do kind of operate on a shoestring here, and we actually get very little direct support from Trout Unlimited. So we kind of forage on our own a little bit. But just to quickly go over what we're doing in our future meetings, in October 8th, which is a Saturday, we're not going to have a meeting in October, but we're going to have an event. Basically, we have to finish the Crossroad project. We've got trees to plant. So we picked Saturday, October 8th for that from 9 to 12. We have, I believe, 50 trees. And then after we plant the trees, we're going to have a Oktoberfest type of picnic. Should be beautiful down that time of year. Should be peak of foliage. If you're interested in volunteering for the tree planting, give Ralph an email. We've already got 8 to 10, I think you said, volunteers for that. We get even more, we'll entice you with free food. But tree planting is a lot of fun. We actually do that a lot. And it should be fishable again. Actually, the temperatures are getting nice and low there. In November, also on a Saturday, we're tentatively setting this up, but the plan is we want to do a joint event with the Sept TU chapter, kind of our sister organization in Rochester at the Orbis store. They're having George Daniels, who's a well-known fishing guide and author. He teaches at Penn State now. He's from Pennsylvania. And so they approached us if we wanted to do a joint meeting, and I said, yeah, sure, because it'd be less work for me, among other things. But it actually, we do want to do, I think, more partnering with the chapter, and kind of turn the page, and have a, like I said, a more collaborative relationship with them. In December, we're going to be back here for our holiday party, which is always a lot of fun. We haven't done it in the Legion in 3 years now. 2019 was the last one, but we'll have a big raffle and show some videos. We like to find the funniest fishing videos we can. January, we're firming up, but we're going to do probably an intro to fly tying. The theme will be fly tying in some way, and we want to restart our fly tying school this year. Should be enough to redo that. And Paul has volunteered to be the captain of the fly tying school this year. So, and February 13th, we'll be in the Legion also. We're looking for a guest speaker for that meeting. So if you know anyone or you'd like to volunteer, step up. And March, we're setting out. Ralph just contacted Rick Kustich, who's a very well-known guide and author in Western New York. And April 10th, we're looking for a speaker. So we have 2 open slots, February and April. And then in May, we're going to do intro to fly fishing again at Ononda Park on Canandaigua Lake. We did that last year for the first time, I think about 5 or 6 years. And it was one of my favorite things we did last season. We got a really good response and good feedback from the students, and had a really good time. Whoops. And then in June, we'll do a picnic in some park near here. We'll decide, later as we get closer to that. It'll be Monday, June 12th. And then in July, we'll again do bass fishing at Boughton Park in Bloomfield. So that's what's coming up this season. So we got it almost all filled in. Should have some good programs. This is always my plea for volunteers. Actually, I got a lot of thank yous. Bernie Coy has volunteered to be our new treasurer, replacing Will Faber. Will did this job for a lot of years, and can't thank him enough. And Bernie has been a great volunteer with our conservation projects and tree planting. This is Bernie here with 2 of his best friends. And then there's also various other things we need volunteers for, helping us put Tight Lines, the newsletter, out. I want to thank Adeena, who's a new columnist for our newsletter. And if you have fish photos, send those our way. One thing we want to do to try and increase some revenue is actually sell more ads on the newsletter. That's kind of should be an easy way to make a couple of bucks here. So if you know a business locally that might want to be interested in advertising with us, the Tight Lines goes out to about 550 subscribers now, and plus we put it on the newsletter, so on the website, and just all the other. Thank you, Max. We have donuts and cider, and that's always like to have refreshments at our meetings. And thank you everyone who scrambled and set up our equipment today. And Ralph is managing our conservation programs, and so contact him. He'll always do that. One open position we have is for our veteran programs. We used to do with Project Healing Waters, fly fishing. Because of COVID and the construction project at the Canandaigua VA Center, that stuff has been on hold for almost 3 years. So, but those were really good programs we did for the veterans. So we're looking for someone to kind of take the lead on that program. So if you're interested in any of that, just email me at info@canandaigualaktu.org, and we'll find something for you to do. And let's see, real short conservation, because Al's got a lot to talk about here. Mayfly temperature sensor gauge is live. It's online now. In August, Ralph, with the help from Bernie and Cal Curtis, programmed this. This thing was also some software updating. It's some pretty slick technology. It's solar powered and uses cell phone technology to transmit its readings. And this screenshot here is actually from yesterday afternoon. It was 66 degrees in the river, which is cool enough to fish for trout again. So, and it's probably even, it gives you the time, it's real time. So that was at 2:15 p.m., so right in the middle of the afternoon. And you can go in there, you can get to actually a history, you see how it goes way down at night and way up. So we put a link to this on Tightlines and also on the website. So at any time when you want to go check the temperature as well as the flow of the Cohocton River, you've got this real-time information to decide, okay, do I want to make the drive down there or not? But really, really neat piece of technology. And then we talked about the October 8th tree planting. Just contact Ralph, R. Rothfelder at Gmail to volunteer for that. And these are the trees that were waiting to plant down there. Okay, I think that was fast enough, Al. That was 20 minutes I got that done. So I said,
Yeah.
So you're up. Just tell me when you want to change the screens and I'll
Okay. Well, I just want to say greetings to everybody from Seattle area out in Washington. I think most of you know I was the conservation chairman for about 20 years. Then both my sons all of a sudden moved out to Washington. So here I am. I'm a little disappointed. I haven't done any fishing yet. So I'm a little grumpy out here, but maybe I'll get over that. Anyway, I wanted to, 2022 was a very busy year for us in the, the conservation arena. One of the things we did this year, which we've been trying to do for quite a while, is help stock the Cohocton River. But we had a couple of new things this year. This year we stocked, normally we stock 2 times a year, but this year we stocked 4 times, and we also stocked all the ways from Atlanta down to Canandaigua. So we had some change up, but it all worked very good. And we put in over about 16,000 trout in the river. So I really appreciate all the people that came out and helped with that program. And I know you'll continue to help Ralph in the future. Go ahead to the next one, Gordon.
okay.
Another thing we did this year, we planted about 80 trees in the June timeframe on the Cohocton River. And we planted these trees on the north end of Avoca, right after you cross the bridge on the north end of Avoca. This was an area we had planted it once before, but a lot of the trees got washed out due to high water. They just didn't get the roots in good enough before the floods came. So we went ahead and replanted that area. And again, it's, kind of on the north end of Avoca. So that was well supported. You can see the great crew I had here, and we got those trees in the ground and in great shape. Next slide.
Okay. Come on, next slide. Hold on, Al, my computer froze here. There we go. Okay.
Another thing we got involved in this year was we were kind of approached by the Genesee Valley Conservancy. They just set up a new preserve called the Gully Preserve, and through this preserve, there's 2 real beautiful streams. One's called Mill Creek, and the other's a brook that runs into Mill Creek. They asked if we would kind of help them decide what to do as far as the creeks in that area. So I went into the Gully Preserve and I kind of reviewed everything and gave them about a 6-page report of recommendations of things they might do in the preserve. But one of the main things I recommended was that they make it develop some special fishing regulations. And you can see I prepared this draft sign you see up on the screen. Basically, we recommended they make it artificial only, barbless, catch and release. This is really both the brook and the creek are beautiful pieces of water, not real big pieces of water, but they're unique in that they're really pristine, got great habitat for being used as like a trout nursery. And we were up there in July, and the water in Mill Creek was down into the 50s in the middle of the day. And it just so happens I went over to the Cohocton River after I was at the Mill Creek, and the water there was 73 to 75 degrees, depending on where you went. So this little creek is a great place, for the young trout for the trout to spawn and to grow up. And one of the things I did was help arrange to do. You can see on the picture on the left, I helped arrange some shocking, because we wanted to prove to the Genesee Valley Conservancy that there were actually quite a few trout in this river, and it was being used as a nursery area. So we went in there and we shocked the river, and within about 800 feet of the river, we came up with 73 brown trout. So that's quite a pretty good density for a small creek, just 780 feet. The biggest we officially recorded was 12 inches, but I know we had one in the net that was about 14, and you know how the fish story is, that one got away. But,
Yeah.
so we didn't officially measure it. But anyway, we've just recently got notification that they're going to accept our proposal to develop it as a restricted fishing area. So we're working with the Genesee Valley Conservancy to get the signs made up. We decide they're going to use their sign maker and basically use the draft sign that I came up with. And then we're going to give them some money out of our conservation funds to help pay for the signs. So those signs should probably go up by early next year. And it's a good thing we're putting the sign up, because when I checked out the preserve, I found some worm containers in there. So it's a good time to put up more restrictive signs. You can go to the next one, Gordon.
Okay.
So this is the biggest thing we've been working on. That's the Crossroad project. We got our funding, about $9,000 last year, and I had hoped to put the structures in last year, but the water levels were too high. We wanted to wait until the water levels were down to reduce, the sediments that we put into the river, and also make it easier to put the trees in. If you try to put the trees in the river, when the water is too fast, it's going to be very hard to get them in just the right position you wanted to get them in. So in 2021, we went down and we cleared some paths along the river, and we also dropped the trees we needed to put, most of the trees we needed to put into the river. But then we waited until this year to actually build the structures. You can see the diagram on the left, and we have 9 structures, and this diagram basically shows how we built the structures. One of the things I wanted to do, this is basically a Kraus design. So one of the things I wanted to do is basically try to emulate Mother Nature. And if you go around to a lot of our streams around here, you'll see, occasionally see a tree down in the water, and it's kind of angled downstream because the water swept it downstream. So kind of what I want to do is emulate Mother Nature. And basically you can see what we did is we tried to put the crown of the tree out into the river a little longer than the portion that we buried. So I'd say the crown portion is more like 2/3, and the portion we buried is more like 1/3. And it varied little bit from structure to structure. The other thing I wanted to do was I was very concerned that when particularly you get high flows, floodwaters, and ice, that these trees would get ripped out of the bank. So I tried to make sure that they didn't get ripped out of the bank. You can see we put boulders around the tree, on top of and around the tree, but we also put 2 4x4 treated crossbars. And so, there's no guarantee, but I think we anchored those trees pretty good. And if you look at the picture on the right, there's my right-hand helpers, John and Tom, and you can see how anxious I was to get these trees at just the right angle. So I built a big triangle, and we actually took that triangle out to each position, and you can see the orange mark we put on the ground. So when the excavator came, he had a line showing exactly what angle we wanted to put the structures in at. You can go to the next slide. So you can see the excavator that we were using. That excavator, we partnered to do this project with the DEC. They helped us just kind of do some of the planning, but the Steuben County Soil and Water District helped us by providing the large excavator. They also provided a skid steer to help move the rocks around. So they did a great job. We had to refund them for their gas and some of their contributions, but we got a great deal out of. We never would have got that good a price for anybody else, but they had an operator that perfectly laid the trees the way I cut the holes exactly the way I want them, laid the trees down exactly the way I want them. So they had really provided us a great operator. So you can see the excavator. It's amazing the size of the tree that excavator could move around. Then on the right-hand picture, the first thing we did was we cut the trench using that orange line we put out as a guideline. We cut the trench out, and then we laid the tree in there. And then I went in there with a chainsaw and cut slots in each one of the trunks of the trees. And then we actually dropped those 4x4s down into the slots I cut in the trees. And then we used leg bolts to attach the 4x4s to the trees. So like I say, I really wanted to make sure these structures stayed in place. Next picture.
It was really hot that week too, wasn't it? It was in the middle of July.
It was pretty warm, but we were pretty good. After we put the crossbars on, then the excavator put the big boulders around it. So the boulders are gonna further help try to keep these structures in place. And like I say, that guy who was operating the excavator, I was always worried he was going to drop a rock on my 4x4s and snap them, but he never even came close to doing that. He was just an expert. And then the picture on the right, you can see after we got the 4x4s, the boulders, then we backfilled everything and smoothed it back out. So you can see, one of these structures, how it goes well out in the river. One of the things I wanted to do is make sure we had a good impact on the river, and we really got a good bang for our bucks as far as giving the trout places to hide, providing shade, protecting them from predators, improving current flows and oxygenation and everything. So you can see how far we got these trees out in the river. But one of the things we did, the most we went across the river is like about some places maybe 2/3 across. So we always left a gap on the other side of the river, so somebody canoeing or kayaking, had had a way to get down the river. Next shot. So after we smoothed this back out, you can see we smoothed it out pretty good. Then we seeded the whole area. We probably put over 100 pounds of seed on the area. And then the picture on the right, that shows another one of the structures. And you can see how far that reaches out into the river. If you look close, you can see one structure right close, but you can also see some other structures further down the river. So we tried to space these structures out. So you got a real nice structure, then you got your quiet flow, then you got another structure. Like I say, we got like 9 of these structures in the series. And you can see how well these structures are in the water. And you got to keep in mind, the water in July was very, very low. So, once the water's back up in the normal, a good percentage of these structures are going to be into the river. So I had a great group of folks help me, and I think we did a terrific job, and I think it's really gonna help the trout. One of the things is we put in the downstream structures first, and I went down there the day after we put them in, and when I walked up to one of the structures, several trout, raced away and went out in the river. So it didn't take the trout long to, find them and start using them. One of the things hopefully we'll do, if these structures prove successful, hopefully in the future, you guys will build some more somewhere else in the river. Next slide.
So the structures, basically, they help, do they kind of narrow or the channel and make it swifter and going from kind of wide and shallow to eventually kind of narrower and deeper? Is that?
Yeah, that's one of the things it's going to do. It'll allow the, you'll have better scouring of the stream bed. That's part of it. We want to create currents. We want to, improve dissolved oxygen, and it's also going to help us to scour deeper spots in the river. So there's holding areas and stuff like that. It's not going to narrow the river, but it's just going to improve the overall habitat for the trout.
Okay.
So the picture on the left, one of the things I did was when I ordered trees early in the spring that we planted on the north end of Avoca, I also ordered some trees for the Crossroad project. And my thinking was we would, as soon as we got the structures in, we would plant the trees. But as you know, it's been a very hot and dry summer. So I decided we got the trees in containers, and the owner who near where we're doing the project and owns a lot of the property where we put the project, he's just a great guy. He's helped us out, with his tractor and mowing, but he's also taking care of these containerized trees for us. He's watering them and taking care of them. As you can see, they look in good shape. But these are the trees we decided to wait. It was just too hot and dry. We decided to wait until the fall to plant the trees. So these are the trees that Ralph is going to lead the effort to try to plant these in the fall. And we'll be putting these over in the area where we built the structures. So once we get those trees in, that'll complete the Crossroad project 100%. The slide on the right, the other thing I did is I wanted to put a temperature gauge in the Cohocton River, because I think you all know over the last several years, particularly, the river's been getting very, very warm, and there's the time when it's warm and when you really shouldn't be catching trout in there has been getting longer and longer every year. So I decided if we can get a temperature gauge in there, that would help us to get some historical data regarding the temperature, and we can use that data, to help us design future projects, to help us assess, the impact of future projects. It'll help us to, justify money for future projects. But it also, like Gordon mentioned earlier, anybody who goes fishing down there, they can tune into the gauge and see whether it's too hot to fish. But this is right down the area of those buildings that you can see on the right side of the screen is right near where the gas station is. Just to the south of the big white building is the gas station down on the south end of Avoca. And then I think this other thing's the new dollar store or something like that. So it's right down in the area where a lot of us like to wet a line. It's on a beautiful hole where I've caught lots of fish, but that's right where the gauge was set up. So I had sought special funds to do this, and we really appreciate the funds we got from the council. We got funds from the Cortland fly fishers, and then we had a bunch of personal donations, and I greatly appreciate the personal donations. Plus we used some of our environmental funds. So we got the equipment in just before I left New York, but I didn't have time to put it in. So Ralph followed up and got it going. Next slide.
That's right off of Route 415 and State Highway 415. And
So there's two parts of the mayfly sensor system. One part, you actually put it in the water. That's the shot on the left. So you can see again, the water's very particularly low this year, but there's still plenty of water in this pool here. I did a lot of research deciding what the pool to put it in, and finally decided on this one. So that picture on the left shows the in-water sensor, and then the picture on the right shows there's a cable between the in-water sensor and this box, and basically this box is what gets the data, automatically processes it and transmit it. And you can see the little gizmo on top, that's basically the photo cell. So ideally, the thing just keeps going. You're supposed to go down once a year and check it out, make sure the rodents haven't chewed your cable, or make sure the flood hasn't damaged your sensor. But now that it's in there and it's got the solar cell, it should be pretty self-sustaining. So again, hopefully we can use this data. Just as a side thing, I just sent an article to Trout magazine that I don't know if they're going to print it or not, but I kind of raised the red flag. I think there's a lot of streams that are throughout the country that are suffering due to the global warming. Cohocton's been above 73 degrees for almost 3 months. It's just going down again, but it's been over 73 for almost 3 months. That's just, now what can we do about it? That's the big question. But I think we need to start thinking about, what are ways that we can try to, offset this new threat to our great trout fishing in the United States. Next slide. I just threw this thank you note on the left. One of the things, I've been trying to do this thing every year where we donate flies to the Casting for Recovery program, and they greatly appreciate it. This year, I think last year we donated about 160 flies. This year we donated 200, and that's a great program. It's greatly appreciated, and they say all the gals who get the flies, they think it's Christmas. They open them up, and it's getting that nice box of flies is terrific. So I really appreciate everybody who's tied flies, and hopefully we continue that. I just want to mention, I greatly appreciate Paul Osborne has agreed to, kind of perpetuate this idea of donating these flies. So Paul will probably be sending you emails. Probably, I usually try to start around the November timeframe or so, and try to get the flies to casting recovery, about March or something like that. So Paul will probably be knocking on your door like that. Gordon added the picture on the right. I greatly appreciate, we had a dinner down at the Redwood down at Naples. Anybody who knows me knows I go down there for blueberry pie or something every once in a while. Whenever we work on a project, either we go to Lenny Lou's for ice cream or go there for pie. But I greatly appreciate the fact that they had this going away session for me. And I just, this will probably be the last time I tune in and see most of you guys. But I really appreciate all the great help I've had over the years and all the great comradeship. And I wish you all the best in the years ahead.
Okay, well, thanks, Al. The dinner was fantastic. I hadn't had, if you had ever gone, it's on Route 21 in Naples. Very, really home cooking food, and it was just a delicious meal and really good company that came there. You were in such a hurry with all these projects, and then you had to move on top of that. I mean, I think this was like 2 days before you moved or something. We had that dinner.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I told, that's my wife Jean there sitting next to me. I told her I wasn't going to move until I got those crossroads structures in. So once we got those in, I had to throw up my hands and say, okay, let's go, but I am a reluctant participant in all this, but hopefully I'll find some light at the end of the tunnel here. Like I say, I'm a little disgruntled because I haven't even wet a fishing line. One of the things that I found out is even if you buy a house here, you have to wait 90 days to get a resident fishing license. But that's amazing. You got to wait 90 days after you buy a house. But anyway, I may have to break down and buy a non-resident license and I need to get out there. I'm going to go crazy.
Okay. You'll have to
Well,
find
it's
another
not
TU
okay, but
chapter
it's
to
all
help
right.
All right, well, thanks, Al. It was like I said, we have very big shoes, and it's going to take several people to probably half a dozen of it to do what you accomplished in the time you were here. But you're a force of nature.
Thank you much.
Appreciated. All right, so let me introduce our next speaker, Adeena, who's I'll just give a quick bio of her. She was promoted this summer to, she's the Vice President of Diversity Initiative for the New York State TU Council. And she replaced Lindsay Agnes, who many of us know from the Sept Green chapter. And Dee was previously the Regional Vice President for the State Council in Region 7. And lives pretty close to us here in Interlaken, just north of Ithaca. And she's a member of the Finger Lakes TU chapter in Seneca Falls. Why don't you want to sit here and then just hit the arrow down. I'll do the first one. There you go.
Thanks, Gordon. Hi, everybody. I'm Dee Brown. Thanks for inviting me here today, Gordon. I'm kind of shy, so I'll babble a little bit. But yeah, I live in Interlaken. It's right between Cayuga and Seneca Lake, and there's almost no fly fishing water there whatsoever. So I've learned to drive quite far, and the Cohocton River I visit a lot. Cayuga Creek's a home stream for me. And I've been doing a lot of day tripping down on the Delaware, especially in my role. So promoting diversity is what I do. And I'm brand new to this role. I moved into it in June. So I still got my training wheels on, probably for a year. Lindsay is throwing lots of information at me a lot. And she's wonderful to work with. She's an excellent mentor. And in fact, I got into fly fishing probably because of her. I fished as a kid, just spin fishing, you know, my mom said, come home when it gets dark, you know, that kind of fishing. I don't know what I was catching, but I put it away. And then later I saw a river runs through it. And I thought, what is that? I know everybody winces or laughs but you know, I mean, that is the entry point for a lot of people, you know? And I think I saw the Fly Fishing Museum was talking about like the 30-year anniversary coming up, and like, I don't know, I'm still kind of sentimental about that movie. But I was kind of mesmerized by that, but I didn't know where to go or what to do. And you know, I went to one or two club meetings, and I was shy. I was the only female there. And some people were friendly, but for the most, I was kind of ignored. Like, I think people just didn't know what to make of me. They're like, who's that girl, you know? So that's when I decided that I'm just going to put myself out there, and people treat you the way you tell them to. So if I'm friendly and outgoing, and you know, that's worked out pretty well for me. And everybody's been really, really welcoming. I met someone who was into fly fishing, and in the same exact week, there was an ad in my little penny saver that said female anglers wanted. I've never seen that before, you know? So I followed up on it, and it was Lindsay Agnes, and she was doing a women's outreach for the Finger Lakes chapter, which had 0 females, 0. So now there's one, and it's me. But now you can choose your own chapter. So I think people, you know, kind of move around a little bit, like where their interests lay. So I met Lindsay, I met a couple other women at this event, and we've become fishing buddies. And so when I saw Lindsay up there, she was so inspiring, and she was talking about working with veterans, doing casting for recovery, like all that. I'm a river helper now. This is my 3rd year doing that. I've tied flies for them too. I figured it was a great way to learn. So I wouldn't send them my first few, but I'd tie like 15, and then I'd give them the last dozen maybe, you know what I mean? So I was kind of looking for community. Fishing with my, you know, then partner was fun, but then there were times when I just wanted a different vibe, and I wanted to meet other anglers. And so I started Googling and searching on the internet for female anglers in New York. And I came across a club called Juliana's Anglers, and they're a metropolitan club out of the city for the most part. So we meet kind of at the West Branch. That's kind of like a good meeting point. We're each about 2.5 hours from each other. So I went to one of their events, and immediately, you guys, these girls are so much fun. And they were very welcoming and inclusive, and every level, open to every level. And I finally found my community. So even though they're far away, I'll go up to the Adirondacks and fish with them, shorts with my arm, you know? And again, I found wonderful mentors in their leadership as well. So after being a member for about 2 years, they kind of turned to me and they said, would you like to be a board member?
Yeah.
And, you know, I was flattered. Nobody had ever asked me that before. Yeah, I learned. Yeah. So one of the prerequisites to being a board member, they didn't, you know, they know I don't have tons of resources, but what I do have is a lot of enthusiasm. And so they said, if you want to be on the board, you have to organize events. So, so that's been a challenge for me. I went on Airbnb. I rented a house right on the Delaware. Ron Beck, I don't know if anybody here knows that guy, but he's a professional guide right there in like that first half mile from the dam. And he has a house for rent. And I thought, I'm just going to ask my girlfriends to come, you know, like fishing camp. I'm going to ask my buddies. And it was this June. It was Father's Day weekend. I had a great time. And then when I had to do my official Juliana's, like that was my training wheels with my friends. I just ran an event with them, and it went perfectly. So we were all the way from Stylesville up at the dam down to the game lands in Pennsylvania. And I just took them with me, and we waded a lot, and we did a lot of bushwhacking, and we caught a lot of nothing. But, you know, so some girls caught some fish. I did not catch a single fish on the Delaware all season. So, you know, it's become a joke now, how long my skunk streak will go. But the Julianas are good. My friends are good. And Trout Unlimited started coming to me too, saying, would you would you be interested in being the Women's Outreach Coordinator for Leon Chandler, which is based out of Ithaca? And those are my friends, so I said, sure. And then I started contributing to the newsletter. And it was just simple little steps at first, you know, and, you know, just kind of writing from my perspective. I'm not making like big movements. I'm really learning. I'm so new to the role. I just want to learn like what you guys are interested in, what barriers to diversity and inclusion you see. Is that an issue that resonates? Is it not really that interesting? You know, I mean, it's your club, you know, whatever. But I'm definitely a resource for that kind of stuff. So if you do have women's outreach programs and you need a fleet of female instructors, let me know and I can rustle them up. But, you know, whatever you need us to do. So I moved more and more into these kinds of roles, and I figured I was at a stage in my career where I'm super busy being a mom. I'm also getting into like where my parents are starting to need me, and I'm career just busy. So it's really limited to weekends right now. I figure I've got a few years before I can start easing back on my workload and then moving into more fishing, which is I'm just waiting, like all of us, right? We're just waiting to get out there, right? So part of fishing with women is, you know, we're a pretty social bunch, and I've started meeting other organizations like Fly Fishers International has a Women's Connect, and I know that organizer. I know Kirk's organizer. We went down to Pine Creek in Pennsylvania, like we were exploring Slate Run. Oh yeah, I'll just keep going. Yeah.
There.
Okay. So this is the first event that I had, and yep, that's my girl there. And 7 or 8 women showed up, and half of them are also like helpers. So we were all helping each other. There were only a few victims that were like brand new fly fishers. So some of these women are school teachers, and they run fly tying classes and fly fishing after school programs. And others are from FFI, a couple other groups. I can't remember now. And so I just didn't know what I was doing. So I rented a shelter at Teganic Park. I know that's not prime fly fishing water, but it was central to my area, and it had all the kinds of water that I want to take a beginner on. Like, you're not going to worry about waiting there, you know, like it was really safe. And so I set up, you know, just like a fly tying station. I set up materials, trout magazines to take home, you know, and then I made a handout sheet, which I'd be welcome to share with anybody. And it's a resource sheet that I put together for complete beginners. And it's, you know, how to find the DEC locator map, you know, local fly shops, you know, like etiquette, like don't go into a fly shop and ask for a whole bunch of information and walk out empty handed, like just stuff that you need to know. And it's been a fun group, and I really learn a lot. Casting for Recovery has been beautiful. Oh yeah, so that's Pine Creek up there. This girl was Finger Lakes Land Trust, and she was so delighted to catch that little bluegill. Like, she just did a happy dance. But now she's out on Pine Creek with us, and she caught more fish than me. So yeah, we'll do a trip again in the fall.
Go back there.
Oh yeah.
So you've also turned into a fly tire, right? Those are your bugs.
Oh yeah. So I love fly tying almost as much as the fishing itself. Especially in the winter, just hunkered down with like a book on tape, you know, sitting on a little heating pad. I'm good to go for a couple hours. And yeah, that's the Gartside Gurgler, for those of you who know it. I learned how to tie that online with a group called Confluence Collective. And they're all about getting diversity out onto not just women, but people of color, you know, whatever your difference is. It's about finding a community that you feel welcome and included in.
When were you at Pine Creek?
That trip there were a lot of frogs around. I want to say around Mother's Day. Uh-oh.
Green.
Oh, okay. See, I broke it already.
There you go.
Okay, thanks. So, yeah, the Pine Creek trip was good. We had a professional instructor named Julie Sewer, who was a Joe Humphrey student.
Did you catch the small little trout on the playground?
I didn't catch anything there either.
Oh,
I guess I just stink this year. I don't know what it is.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, okay, well, that's
Where's
good to know.
Okay.
That's on there.
I broke all your stuff, I'm sorry.
Just hang with us for a second, our monitor,
Yeah.
there we go.
Alex, can you hear us? He looks dubious.
Adeena,
Yeah, hey,
this is Al Kraus. Now, I want to help you catch your first
There you go.
trout at the West Branch. So get my address from email address from Gordon, and I will send you some advice. That's my great love is the West Branch
Oh.
of Delaware.
There we go.
thank you.
Send me
All
an
right.
email and say you want to learn about the West Branch.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah, you never offered that to us.
I'm not lying.
You never offered that to us, Al.
Yeah. Hey, I want to point out something. You see that John down there eating ice cream? He's trying to get my goat eating ice cream down there.
So Pam takes me out on Castle Creek, which is a private land, used to be the Corning owners. It's their old camp, and they have these beautiful brook trout in there. This is pretty cool. It's a pond that has a platform with a rope, and you just pull yourself along and fish off of the platform. It's pretty cool. I like that. I've never seen that set up before. And then when we left, we locked it back in place. Juliana's Anglers, that's the president right in the middle, Heidi Mason, probably one of my biggest mentors. And we do a warm-up school every spring. And that is right behind the West Branch Angler, where I have caught several fish, by the way, just not this year. And I was the fetcher this year because I'm the youngest. So I was the one running to go get the seine net and go get the flies and go get the, and then we got very loud in the dining room, so they told us to go into the other room.
I
know-
love what I love about all your slides is just the joy, the smiles and the joy
Yeah.
on everyone's face there. I mean, you just look
Yeah.
at the photos and everyone's, that's really what this
Yeah.
brings to people.
Yeah, we really have a good time.
You know,
There's some gentle ribbing, but like, we're not gonna trash you if you're a nympher and we're spay casting, we don't care about that,
Okay.
We really like just having a good time together. And we do laugh a lot. We drink wine at night. Yeah. So, the second event that I had at Taganic Park was this spring. I doubled my numbers in 1 year. I doubled my participants in 1 year. And, that's me with, the girls again. And, the giant largemouth bass, I felt kind of silly catching on an H3 rod because it's my airport pond. But that was a huge fish, and that was a 4-weight. And I was just so glad that I caught that guy and that it didn't break my toy.
That's basically a retention pond at Ithaca Airport.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like water management, but like there's largemouth bass, there's tons of sunnies in there, and I caught a couple crappie.
Mhm.
And what was happening was I'm still a new angler in a lot of ways. I've been doing this for about 4 years. So I'd catch a tiny sunny. I'm like, oh, you're barely worth reeling in, and then suddenly it takes off. No. What happened was a giant largemouth bass has eaten my struggling baby fish, and now he's, gone. So I finally caught that guy after he did that to me like 5 or 6 times. I was like, yes. So there still is quite a big learning curve for me. I really love it. But what I'd like to do is learn. Okay, so Trout Unlimited National and the New York State Council are really, really interested in broadening our message and casting a wider net, because when you look at population trends, by 2045, people of color will be the majority. We need our membership to start reflecting this general public. Now, we love, for the most part, we're fly fishers, we're conservationists. That might not be a broad, that's not going to appeal to everyone. So what we've all been tasked with was like, how do we craft a message to bring more diverse people in? And one of the things that we realized that we could do as well was, you know, getting together with other groups who we might not think about. So, you know, I've been reaching out to like Girl Scouts, a lot of some of the Ithaca crowds who are like into like, you know, trail maintenance and helping out with the Finger Lakes Land Trust and stuff like that. And we're also interested in reaching out to, let's call them two new groups that like we don't really think about. One is, I'm going to call them the extreme active. So these like 20 somethings, you know, like maybe they haven't really bought a house and a mortgage and all that yet. And, you know, they like extreme sports, you know, jumping out of airplanes, you know, rock climbing, hang gliding, like, you know, fly fishing might appeal to that crowd. They care about the outdoors. They care about our resources. The outdoors matters to them just like it does to us. So let's reach out to these young, active people and see how we can bring them in because we need them. And then another group that we were kind of thinking about is, we'll call them young outdoor families. And these are like, you know, again, young people with young children where like maybe one day you will take them fishing and then the next day you will take them to a stream cleanup. You know, another time you'll do something that's completely different, but it's really the parents mentoring their children and showing them the outdoors matters because that's the next generation. And if they're all looking at a screen, then it's all just theoretical. So anybody who's interested in teaching young folks about the outdoors, we want to get them in. So there's a lot of language around diversity, equity, and inclusion that I'm really learning right now. And one of the things that I'm trying to understand is what can I actually do? What can I actually do that makes a difference? You know, I've walked to a couple of Trout Unlimited meetings where I've seen women or like people who are new for the first time not be welcomed by the group, like kind of, you know, like, so, you know, anything I can do that makes somebody feel more included and welcome, I'm going to try to do that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was what I need to do is figure out what chapters want, figure out what the council wants, and start crafting messages to make that happen. And I don't really know how to do that yet. Like I know how to do a little bit of social media. I'm starting to reach out to other chapters and ask them if they would be interested in monthly content. You don't have to use it if it's not fitting in that time or ever or whatever, but you know, just putting that message out there, I think, let's see what happens.
All right.
I think, yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Does anybody have questions? Anything you want to ask me about? And really, any question is fine. At Adeena Creek, I have. Yeah. That's
it in the upper left.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the plunge pool right at Route 89. And that's where your best bet is. Like that's that first impassable barrier. But like when I try going off the North Point where the spin casters go, I mean, you need an intermediate line, a long sinking tip. Like am I fly fishing anymore? I don't know. So, you know.
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. Well, Gordon's next. So please reach out to me anytime. I'm on social media everywhere. I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Trout Unlimited. I have business cards, I have resources. I would like to come to this meeting again and learn about you guys. So if I just show up, please ask me anything.
No, we'd like to have you there. As you see, you doubled our female attendance.
All right. Well, that was easy.
That's progress.
Thank you so much, everybody.
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, no, I really appreciate Dee coming over here. She actually started attending our Zoom meetings about a year ago, and so we got to know each other and went fishing a little bit too.
Gordon, I will tell you one thing about Zoom meetings. More women can attend Zoom.
Okay. They can. We just have to get the word out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, we got a couple of chats.
All right, Lori.
Lori, please keep me posted on all upcoming events. Thank you, Adeena and everyone. I will be back. So that's, let's see. Yeah, there we go. That's learning so much tonight, and so appreciate the devotion to release, no barbs, and making the environment better for the love of everyone. That's for fly fishing. Lovely group. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, Lori, for coming. Keith, thank you, Al, for all the work on your behalf of yet to be born future fly fishermen. And all right. So I'm the last speaker. So the theme was how I spent my summer vacation. Now, Al and Dee spent it working, so I actually have vacation. So that's what I'm going to chew your ear off for the last part of the meeting here. So about last November, it was about a year ago, I got an email from a gentleman, Mr. Don Hart from London, Ontario, who is a representative of God's River Lodge in Manitoba. Don was actually a longtime client of the lodge, and he was trying to drum up some business with a special offer for TU members. And so we got to know each other and spoke, and Don was actually our guest speaker at last November's meeting, where he did a presentation on the lodge and the incredible fishery up there. And that's actually, we recorded that, that's on our YouTube. But one of the challenges is that this lodge was effectively out of business for 2 seasons, in 2020 and 2021, because of COVID and travel restrictions to Canada, and it was a big blow to the economy of the community that it's located in. So, so after I watched the presentation and everything, my thought was, okay, with a name like this, the fishing has got to be good. I mean, you can call this place God's River. Okay, that's some high, that sets the bar pretty high. But, and I wasn't disappointed, as you'll see. And I had in my bucket list of fishing destinations to go to one of these remote Canadian resorts where you have to fly in and there's no roads and everything. And this really, really fit the bill here. So it's coincidentally, I already had plans to go to Canada in July. My oldest niece, Carly, was getting married. And so I said, well, since I'm going to be in Canada, let me stay in the country. And so that's when I decided to, after the wedding, go spend a week in Manitoba at God's River. And so take a look here. This might be the only time you ever see me wearing a suit and tie. About once a year, I might do that. But anyway, it's a fantastic, I've been to a lot of big weddings in my time, but this was the most lavish affair I've ever been to. It was a traditional Hindu ceremony, and then with a reception, and went to 1 a.m. and a after party that went to about, well, I bailed at about 2:15, but my brother decided he was going to party with the millennials, and he was, I think, approaching 4. So it was about a 12-hour party there, and just a fantastic affair. But I paced myself because I had a flight to catch the next day, and so on the Sunday after the wedding, I flew to from Toronto to Winnipeg on Air Canada, and spent the night at a hotel at off the Winnipeg airport. It's about a 2.5 hour flight, very easy flight to get to Winnipeg. The easiest way to get there is to drive to Toronto and then and fly there. And then Monday morning, I was picked up by the lodge's representative, a fellow named Harry, who took me to the Perimeter Airlines terminal for my flight to God's River, Manitoba. So it was fun. I had to pack some, I had basically 2 suitcases. I had my wedding fancy clothes, and I had my fishing gear. So the car was pretty packed. Perimeter Airlines is basically the lifeline to northern Manitoba, as their roads are impassable in the summer. They have a winter road. If you ever seen the show Ice Road Truckers, they actually filmed an episode near this community. So, but once everything thaws, everything has to fly. And so this was a Monday morning, and it was like pretty much any other airport terminal on a Monday morning. You had a lot of road warriors going all sorts of places. And there are a lot of folks that commute from Winnipeg up to these north communities who are like nurses or social workers or a lot of construction trade workers, all sorts of folks. So the planes are these twin engine de Havilland. If you ever remember flying US Air out of Rochester, those twin engine turboprop planes, these are the workhorses. And they, just packed, not just with people, but cargo, because everything flies. And a lot of residents of these northern communities will come to Winnipeg for the weekend and shop because it's so much cheaper. And so you see like Walmart shopping bags, and it's incredible. I mean, wasn't even packed stuff. People are just shopping bags. Here, put this on a plane for me. But there's one flight in and into God's River and from Winnipeg, and one flight out. The morning flight in and afternoon flight out. So luckily for the entire trip, all my flights were right on time. I had no delay issues. But that can be an issue, especially going up to a pretty remote area. And then once I got to landed at the airport, gravel runway airport in God's River, I was picked up by the manager of the lodge, Bruce, and picked my luggage. And then, so the whole experience was just, valet service from the time I, got to the hotel in Winnipeg until I got there. And that was an interesting sign. It's all a native territory, so they didn't want you to either drink or bring pot with you, even though pot's legal in Canada now. But so they had this warning sign here. So once I got there, here's just where God's River is, just to give you some geography. It's 365 miles northeast of Winnipeg. This is the lake here. And took about hour and a half to fly there, not too bad. God's River, the lodge is located at the confluence of the God's Lake and the river. The river is basically the outlet for the lake. It's a huge lake. You can see just in that square how big it is. You can also see how much water there is in northern Manitoba and Ontario, and this is Saskatchewan over to the left. Just huge, huge lakes. And then here's a aerial or satellite view of God's Lake and God's River. And one confusing thing is another community called God's Lake Narrows that also has an airport, and sometimes things get misshipped from one place to the other, and so they have to send a flotilla of boats down the lake. I think it's about 50 miles. It's a big lake. It's like bigger than and deep also. Think about like Seneca or Cayuga lakes put together, and that's about how big this body of water is. So I was way up there. All the rivers in this part of the world all flowed north into Hudson Bay. So that's the drainage that you're in. You can see all these rivers going into the bay. And here's a view of the lodge. This is where the dining room and kitchen, they have some rooms in this, the main lodge building. And then they have several of these cabins. This one on the bottom that I circled, that's where I was staying. And on the lower right here, that was the view from my front door as I would come out of the cabin of the river. And right at the front yard of the lodge is this big series of rapids. That's basically where the river begins. And the whole river is just like this. A lot of white water, a lot of fast, thick current. One of the guides asked me what river where I live this reminded me of. And the only one I could think of was like the Niagara. I mean, this was a big, big river, big, heavy water. So as soon as I got there, okay, let's go fishing. But, after they insisted on giving me lunch first. So, but the first afternoon, it was actually the best day of fishing. And this is where I said, afterwards, I said, this was as good as advertised. This is my guide, David, who I fished with all week. And this fellow was just the absolute magician with the boats on that river. He would fly through white water, and I'll have a video I'll show if we have time here of one of the boat rides. And the first fish I caught was this walleye, beautiful gold walleye. It was also the first time I've ever caught a walleye fly fishing, which was a lot of fun. Usually I've caught them in deeper lakes and spinning, but they're a hoot when you catch them on a streamer. So I fiddled around with different flies. All the flies in my hat are the ones that weren't working. So the magic one I found was actually, I brought it, stuck it in my hat here, was this gold and bronze. You can see that on the clouser, real heavy fly made out of tungsten. And here, you can throw that around the room. So the gold and bronze clouser with that foil there was the magic fly. So Manitoba has what they call a master classification, and any brook trout over 20 inches is considered a master. And that first day I caught 5 of them. So I said, holy smokes. And you think, look at the girth and the shoulders on this fish. They were just heavy. They're strong. They didn't like being held onto. They're very, very strong fish, just gorgeous. And you can see why those flies, if you look at the color of the walleye and the brook trout, that gold and the red and the yellow and everything, that was the magic color all week long. And the secret also is you had to get down because that heavy current. This was they weren't on the surface. They were down in the boulders and things, but gorgeous fish. So I said, oh my God, I am on God's river here. So that was our first trip. Now this was the week of, let's see, July, when did I go out? The 18th. Yeah, the wedding was the 16th. So right in the middle of July. Now I think it was about 95 down here at that point in the summer. It was like the hottest week. There was like heat advisories, not just all over the US, but even southern Canada was under heat advisory. So it got warm. It was probably in the high 70s, about close to 80 on Tuesday. Bright, sunny, bluebird sky. So not the greatest fishing day, beautiful day, but you know, the bright lights and things like that. In hindsight, I was a little lazy and I should have gotten up earlier and gone out, you know, hit the water about an hour or two earlier than I did, but I was on vacation. So after the while though, this was actually this beautiful fish here. That was the last hero shot I allowed David to take there because it was warm weather, and unfortunately we had even though we caught and released everything, we had a couple of fish belly up on us. And so that was my one recommendation to the lodge, is that these things are like too precious to, you know, mess around with. Just take a, you know, shot of it in the net and get it in the water and take a little better care of it. The good news though is a lot of bald eagles in the area, so they didn't go to waste there. But just fantastic fish. The rig I was using, you can see down here, it was I was basically using the same thing I pike fish with. I was a 9 weight with very heavy sink tip line was the secret, just because you had to get the fish were down in the bottom of this heavy current and kind of ambushing behind boulders. You had boulders in this river like the size of a house. I mean, there's just big granite boulders. The highlight of day 2 though was my shore launch, which now the first thing, if you're going to have shore launch, you have to catch launch. And so this is the other guy, Wendell, holding a walleye. That's what we really wanted to catch. They also, you know, pike or lake trout were also fair game. And so they built this fire on the shore. They're still well equipped with it. Underneath the deck here, David had a chainsaw and frying pans and everything was down in there we needed to cook. And the traditional shore lunch menu is always the same. It's fried fish, fried potatoes and onions, and canned beans and canned corn. And they're very efficient. You cook the beans and corn, you just puncture the cans and put them next to the fire. And so you don't have to waste a pot and pan. You just cook them in the cans there. And it was fantastic. It was just some of the best fish you could imagine.
Is there any bear sightings at all?
I didn't see any, but they were around. Bears and wolves were very prevalent. So like if you filleted a fish and threw the carcass in the river, it would be eaten either by an eagle or bear or wolf. So, and then Wednesday it got hotter. You can see how kind of hazy how the sky is there. So it's pretty humid. so I wanted to catch some large pike while I was up there. So we went out on the lake, Garden Lake, and had several kind of tackle mishaps. I bought a couple of fancy those predator leaders from Orvis, and one of them I lost to the boat propeller because the current swept the line under the boat, and luckily it didn't chop the fly line off too. But yeah, there went my $20 leader. and so Don had loaned me his spinning tackle, and so I actually tied on just a foot-long wire leader, regular spinning leader, and fly cast with that all week. It was fine. It turned over good, added some extra weight, and didn't seem to bother the brook trout at all either. There's my magic fly there, the gold one. These flies on the right here. These are flies that caught fish. It wasn't the pattern so much, but it was the colors. Bright, you see whites, yellows, golds. And the other thing is about 90% of the gear I brought was too small. So the flies I was using was stuff I'd used in saltwater, like big streamers, big, I don't know if you saw this one clouser here, the big lead things, because you had to get down. And so my most success was using my 9-weight with what's called Orvis depth charge, which is a sink tip line they have. It's real heavy. But it was work. I mean, all day long you're casting a 9-weight rod with sink tip line. And my LL beam reel broke in the middle. I could pick it up and the reel fell off. Not a lot other than the color. I mean, David's job was mostly to, maneuver the boat, and he would kind of say, okay, there should be fish here. But fly fishing is kind of still a novelty a little bit. Most people spin fish at the lodge. But in fact, it was very quiet. I was actually the only customer there for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And it wasn't until later in the week that another group of 3 anglers came. So it was very few folks there. I also brought my 7-weight, and which I preferred to cast, but I didn't have a heavy enough line. So if I go there again, I'll buy that same depth charge line in 7-weight. So Thursday was a little bit of a bust for fishing. We got caught in just a hellacious storm. In fact, I was a little worried. The plan was to go down the river, and this thing probably came off Hudson Bay, and it was like horizontal. I think it was hail at one point. I didn't bring rain pants. I brought my waders and figured that would be adequate, and just right through them. I mean, my raincoat was soaked through, waders, forget it. We had to kind of wait it out. We found this camp. It was actually David's brother-in-law and rode the storm out in the shed. So, but the good news is I got back and the other guides were doing another shore launch. They had an old steel drum they cut in half, and it's really, you just make a fire. They have these enormous frying pans. They take really great care of the frying pans. I really learned a lot about, as far as seasoning them and cleaning them. And I had a great time with the other guides. They were very interested in where I came from and what kind of fishing I did in New York, and all of the staff of the lodge are all members of the Manitoba Cree Nation. And the guides, as they were cooking and everything, they were talking to each other in Cree most of the time. And then this was another shore launch I had. I couldn't get enough of that. So Friday, after that weather went through, was cold. It was funny. We went, every day was different weather. We had like hot summer, and then the last day was probably like late October weather-wise. You see how David's dressed. And by this time, my legs are jello from standing in a boat and casting and, riding these rapids and so forth. So I kind of said, don't worry about it. Let's just find somewhere kind of quiet, some slower water. And we caught mostly pike the last morning, which was fine because I could hardly walk at that point. But we saw lots of bald eagle, almost as many eagles as I've ever seen, short of Alaska. This one on the left was actually right outside in the tree outside the lodge after breakfast, so they saw him. And this one here in flight was, David claimed that same eagle has been sitting on this same tree for about 15 years, and he's nicknamed it Betsy. And eagles are are sacred to the Cree people, and it's actually considered good luck to give a fish to a eagle. So at one point we caught a small pike, and David like cut the gills to get it bleeding, threw it back in the water, and said, "Okay, that's for Bessie." So whenever you see a lot of eagles, there's a lot of fish in the water. So and they had lots of artwork for the eagle. So actually you could go there as a bird watcher and just have fun with all the other things. They had white pelicans and loons and grebes and all sorts of kinds of different ducks. And really just a beautiful spot. So I'll get going here quick. One of the highlights of it was how much food I ate. Amazingly, I didn't gain weight because every day you'd start off with this, Godward's River Grand Slam here of, here I got eggs and potatoes, sausage and bacon and toast. And then all this, I'm afraid I'd sink the boat. One night we fished late, so they made up this roast beef dinner for me. So it's like going to your mom's on, Sunday dinner for the food. They had ice cream, but the rooms were quite nice, motel style. Had a mini fridge and microwave in every room. They gave me a case of bottled water. The service was just amazing. Really just fantastic. And in spite of being so far, so remote, you had any modern amenity you wanted with Wi-Fi service. They had satellite TV. I actually have more channels than I have at home. Your cell phone probably worked better than it did here. In fact, I sent Dee a couple of pictures of while I was up there of, hey, look what I'm doing. How's your day going? Yeah. So beds were really comfortable. So it was really excellent. So that's it was a tough place to leave. There's my ride home on the Perimeter Airlines. These are the boats we would go out in every day. These big aluminum, probably 16-foot aluminum boats, open boats with 40 horsepower Yamaha engines, tiller controls, and they just would like scoot through those rapids like something else. So they asked me at the end of the day. I met the chief of the community, Michael Yellowback is his name. He was actually one of our guest speakers in November. Also, he was just elected chief of the community, and everyone was asking, "Are you going to come back? Did you like it?" And I said, "Yes, but I want to bring some friends if I ever go back there." So, any of you want to? I mean, it was just a trip of a lifetime. So that was on Friday. So after that, I was back to Winnipeg. And then this is my last slide of the presentation. So I had a layover all day long. I had the flight to Toronto left late in about 5 o'clock. So I had a day to kill in Winnipeg and did some sightseeing. And it was a really nice city and learned a lot about it. This building here is called the Canadian Museum of Human Rights. If you visit the city, I'd say this is a must-see. Just a gorgeous, just the architecture of it. And you can't see it from the outside, but there was like a spiral ramp in the building, and went through a lot of some of the painful history that Canada has, especially with their native people. Winnipeg is located. It's a very ancient site, actually. It's located at what's called the forks of the Red River of the north and the Assiniboine River. And this is the confluence of these two rivers. And this was kind of a highway for native tribes for, centuries, thousands of years. The Red River flows north out of North Dakota and Minnesota. So you get tribes from the people from the Northern Plain nations and other nations in Canada. And it was kind of a traditional gathering and trade location. And this quilt here is what's called a memory quilt, and that's for kind of missing children and women, especially. It's a big issue, in the remote communities sometimes. So that was what that is. While I was there, actually, one of the highlights is the Pope visited Canada the week I was there and officially apologized for what they called Indian residential schools that they ran for years there. And basically it would literally kidnap native children from their families and put them in these boarding schools. And the goal was to basically take the Indian out of the child. And it's actually considered genocide because the goal is kind of to kill the culture there. So the Pope, and a lot of these schools were run by not just the Catholic Church, but the Anglican Church too. So he was there to officially apologize to the native, what they call First Nations of Canada, for the role the church did. But had a good time. It just was a fantastic trip. I highly recommend it, and that's our program. So any questions about Manitoba? Anybody? The price of the trip was pretty reasonable. I think in total, with the taxes and stuff, I think it was about $2,800, which included the airfare from Winnipeg to God's River, and the guides and the meals and the lodging, and basically it was an all-inclusive price there. So it wasn't too bad, especially for the fishing that I had there. 5 days. They'll tailor a package to however. Most people stay a week, but I don't think I could have lasted another days just standing in those rapids there. Let's see if I got time for one more.
Was that a traditional clouser, or was that, did I see that was a tube fly clouser?
It was a traditional clouser, just very heavy. Al, can you see this picture of the river? Okay, hold on.
I see your last slide.
Okay, I'm going to change to another screen here. Let me know when you see that.
I see it.
Okay, so this is the wild ride I would do like several times a day, and it shows you the boat skills of this guide here. So I'm doing this with my phone. Like I said, Niagara River.
Yeah, that's good.
No, I was hanging on. See, trying not to drop the phone. Look how close he got to the bank. He had a zigzag through here. We just not some of the big panic. Both of them. He's done it so long, he would smell the route from oldest. And when we would fish, he was an expert at just kind of holding that boat like in position in those rapids, like what you call back trolling with the motor. And one of the stupider things I did is actually the last day I was, when I had the jello legs, and I looked in back of me, and we're in these rapids, and I didn't wear a life jacket the whole time. And I said, if I fall in here, they're going to be, Victor man found in Hudson Bay, remains of a fisherman found in Hudson Bay eaten by polar bears or something. It was so yeah, that's one record. Yeah, wear PFD when you go in that water. So that's it, folks. Thanks for coming out. Yeah, it was a trip of a lifetime. Really was a bucket list.
You said 28.
Yeah, the American dollar is actually pretty strong versus Canadian dollar was, I think, worth about 77. Yeah, it was around 75 cents or something. But you don't notice it with the prices for, other than gas, which is about twice as expensive as ours. But really just great people, great trip. So everyone who's online, thanks for coming by. I think we got all the chats, and come help us plant trees in October. So, Al, it was really good to see you again.
Yep, take care, everybody.
Thank you,
Tight
Al.
lines, tight lines.
Tight lines. Yes, indeed. Okay, thank you.